So when parents are thinking about whether to spank and how to spank if they do, when they're thinking about that kind of idea, what's one thing in this field that you think needs to be, the one major thing that you think needs to die in that field?
Well, it would be the mass miseducation and misinformation about spanking. It seems to be a lightning rod to people. It's simply a consequence, nothing more, nothing less. And it fits in a spectrum of about 12 or 13 different consequence types. It just tends to be the most effective for certain things. And that is why most parents use it, and that's why it exists. And has been proven to be effective for thousands of years. However, as with anything, there are people in the past that abuse things, and that's why one needs limits and laws. So one can clearly define and differentiate the difference between what is constructive physical discipline, let's say, versus what is harsh and abusive treatment.
You mentioned there was one more thing in your field that you think needs to die. What is that?
We were speaking earlier about the child protection apparatus, and here's the fundamental problem with this. In the 1850s, these children's aid societies started where we were. And they were purely charitable orgs where a group of well-meaning people went around on a purely volunteer basis, and they tried to help children which were in abject poverty, severely abused or neglected. And so that was a good thing, and from that evolved the children's aid societies we have today. The problem that I pointed out earlier is that the whole impetus for them has changed into a revenue-generating model. In a perfect world, we would like no child abused or neglected. But the problem with that is that their funding model would collapse, because if they have no abused child, they have no caseloads. And with no caseloads, there's no revenue. And there's a multi-billion-dollar industry that is fed off of this machinery. So therefore, and this leads to another problem. It leads to the continual expansion of the definitions of what is mistreatment and abuse. And this is also why the child protection industry lobbyists keep pushing for laws which criminalize spanking and traditional parenting and this type of thing, because they recognize that if they can just criminalize the activity of 80% of parents, then they've created a fertile hunting ground from which they can always replenish their caseloads and keep the funding rolling. So to anyone from the outside looking in, it's now plain to see that this has nothing to do with the best interest of the child anymore. It has only to do with serving the interests of an industry. And as I mentioned before, the greatest violators of parental rights and children's rights are now Sweden and Norway through their child protection apparatuses. In Sweden, for example, the apprehension of one child will earn the entire system up to €1,200 per day. So it's a huge multi-billion-dollar industry, and it leads to many awful things. It leads to child abduction and trafficking, also to the child pornography industry and the child sex trafficking industry. And people know this so well that the criminals who are involved in these things, they actually infiltrate all these organizations, because the laws are so easy to apprehend a child. They can pretty much make any excuse and steal children by order. If an elite or somebody has an interest, as repulsive as it is, a sexual interest in someone's child, they can have people apprehend that child, put them through the system, sexually groom them, and deliver them to the end user, let's say. That type of thing is going on. It's well known, and no one seems to have any compunction to do anything about it.
Harold, this has been a really, really good conversation. Thank you for being here. Is there anywhere that we can go, that people can go to learn more about your work?
Okay, I chair a national not-for-profit. It's called the K43 Committee of Canada, and it can be found at keep43.ca, KEEP43.ca. Pretty much anything we have to say on the topic can be found at our website. And we do a lot of work which is education and advocacy and talking to legislators, and we work actively to oppose any law which criminalizes traditional parenting or bans normative spanking or those types of things. And we also appreciate any help we can get, so any donations would be very genuinely wanted, and that can be done through the website as well.
Thank you, Mr. Hoff. This has been great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.